we're going to move on right now to the second segment of our BOS system, which is the DNA for business. The DNA for business, we call it the 530 grid. And we're going to have Rosanna, who's just magnificent. She has the awesome women's group, and she's going to be leading us and helping us understand how leadership and the 530 grid is going to change our lives. Rosanna, go ahead.
All right, Kevin. So, leadership. When you think of leadership, what do you think of? What do you see when you look at leadership? What does it mean to you? So imagine to be able to lead your team to greater success by just changing the way you think and doing things in your business. By just a little bit. As a leader, you need to be willing to listen to others. You need to be open to new ideas, not locked into your perspective, and willing to follow as needed. Willing to follow, you say? But I'm the leader. I own the company. I'm the manager. You know who I am? That exact thinking will need to change if you're planning to expect to create massive profits. Let's take a look at the way you need to think to make a breakthrough. Using the 530 grid for starters will help you to keep things organized and efficient, making sure you're training people underneath you that are always making sure that they keep track of their targets and their developing and delivering a message and looking over their message, helping them to see things that they don't see, helping them to group the people and messages together, helping them to see how it helps the people that are around them, helps to grab people that they may not have thought of, making sure that they're always tracking their leads and looking over to see that they haven't forgotten just one, because one can make you lose quite a bit of money very quickly. You know, helping them to ask the key questions, help them to see how they can implement strategic strikes. All of these things are on the 530 grid and more. That right there in grouping people and messages together, that is what we call the golden triangle on the 530 grid. So having an efficient system to follow. And in order to do that, you have to go ahead and be able to willing to follow a system, and that means good leadership. Leadership is teaching others to pick up and to give them opportunities to do so. You know, we had a discussion prior to this event about someone picking up and doing a leadership position to give another leader a break. And it was a little hard for the leader to let go. And I think that, you know, as leaders, we need to remember when to let go and when to go ahead and say, hey, you know, do this first, and then maybe you can follow or be the leader. You know, it's looking for answers. It's seeing the big picture. It's looking for ways to lead. Always having systems like the 530 grid I just directed you to give direction. Leaders can train others to see, think, and do without being told. Direct those under you so that they can be leaders. A good leader is also a good follower. And I think that, you know, if we always look at the ways that good leaders lead, there's a book out there called Good to Great by Jim Collins. I know quite a few good leaders that have read through that book, and it says here that an effective leader catalyzes commitment to and vigorous pursuit of a clear and compelling vision. So having a vision for your team is very important when you're leading, making sure you know where you want your team to go. If you don't have a vision for your team, how are you going to make the profit? So I think it's very important to always make sure that you have a vision when it comes to being a leader, and making sure that when you have a chance to let someone else take the place, let them do it. You know, let them try. I mean, you can always pick up the pieces, but you can see what needs to be fixed and what doesn't. What if you're not there? What if you take a week off at the end of the month and someone has to take over your spot? Do you have other people taking that? Do you have other people that can be the genius that you are? So those are just thoughts that I think a leader should do. And if you want more information about it, please feel free to go to dnaforsuccess.com and click on the 530 grid. You'll find out what I'm talking about when I talk about the 530 grid. Thank you.
Excellent. Man, that was fantastic, Rosanna. Does anybody have any questions? If anybody has any questions, you can do it here, or you can ask them on. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, Rosanna. So I was curious about the example you were talking about the leader who wouldn't let go. So how would that leader, say, for example, use the 530 grid to help?
Well, I think if you go ahead and help a leader to see or help someone who's wanting to take that space to see the importance of following a system first. And so the 530 grid is a system and a solution for a business and helps it organize it very clearly. And so if the person under you wants to take and try to do the leadership, they should make sure that they're following a system.
Right.
Does that answer your question or no?
Well, yeah, but then I have another question. So what happens? What happens if the team isn't strong enough in some areas to be able to do the task at hand?
Well, then you go back and find out where they're weak, and you have to say, okay, is the weakness that they're not tracking the leads? Is the weakness that they're not seeing the opportunity? Is the weakness that their message is not right? What is the weakness in? And so I think finding the weakness in a particular area, and if they're following 530 grid, you can find out very quickly which weakness it is, I think. I may be wrong. You might want to direct that directly to Mark.
I'm just curious, Alan. Like, how would a leader know that the team's not strong enough?
If the leader, for example, has been doing something for a long time, and maybe they're not doing it in the best way, or maybe they are, but and then the leader, say, gives small opportunities for team members to do things, and maybe even big things, and maybe they don't go so well. So how much caution does a leader have to exercise?
So have you found, Alan, that if people make mistakes and have to clean up their own mistakes, that they tend to learn faster and better, or not so much?
I'm trying to think. So I've been in business for 30 years now, and I'm trying to think of a time when somebody cleaned up the mess that they made, rather than leaving it for, say, the owner of the business. And I'm trying to think about that. I'm working on that. If I can think of an example, I'll get back with you on that.
Yeah, and you might just have such a spectacular team that they clean things up and don't even let you know that it was messed up. I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Right. It's like maybe they're just so good. Normally, when people around me make mistakes, it seems like I'm very much aware of those and paying for those. But I'm sure that probably people make mistakes and clean things up a lot more than I realize. So do you think you've changed your mind or not?
Changed my mind about what?
About the earlier conversation. Like, if you get a chance, for those that are listening, pre-show, post-show, come to the event early, stay late, because that's where the real magic occurs. So have you altered it or not yet? You're still working on it?
I'm working on it.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm not saying that was related to my question.
Oh, no, me either. I was just curious.
So, quick thought that I missed a quote that I thought might be helpful out of the Good to Great book. When you hire self-disciplined people who don't need to be managed, then manage the system, not the people. So making sure that when you're hiring, that you're hiring people that are self-disciplined in the first place, so you don't have to go ahead and be, as maybe not as the only leader. You can allow others to be a leader.
Alan, are you laughing as much as I'm laughing? I mean, that sounds like some university professor writing some theoretical book that has total cluelessness as it relates to. I mean, it's like, what, you think the students that are coming out of college are disciplined people? Like, I'd love to ask that, that whoever come up with that quote, where do you find disciplined people? Because I've only found that you build them, you cannot find them, but maybe I'm missing something.
Well,
That's what Jim Collins, he's the one that wrote it.